The Golden State Warriors have made multiple moves as this team just signed an absolutely elite three-point shooter to the roster and ended up having to make some adjustments to this team in order to make it happen. So we'll break down those moves and how it sets up a big trade for the Golden State Warriors in the coming weeks, because everyone's talking about the need for a big man, and this move essentially is a precursor to one of those deals. So lots of stuff to break down in this video, as folks, it actually happened. We broke it down yesterday, how an LJ Crier signing needed to go down. We broke it down in yesterday's video, and it was going to force the Golden State Warriors into making some adjustments, making some changes to this team. And less than 24 hours later, this deal actually happened. So before we break down the signing, I'm going to set a reminder, folks, we are on that goal to 15,000 subscribers. You guys have been crushing over the past couple days, hitting that sub button at 14,137 as of recording. So if you guys want all of the latest updates of the Golden State Warriors team and the predictions, I said LJ Crier is going to get called up to the main roster yesterday for anyone else really brought it up or anything, and here he is, and now the Warriors are setting up some moves. So if you want all the latest, earliest updates on this Warriors team, make sure you guys hit that sub button. But let's dive into this, because if you're not familiar with LJ Crier, in the offseason, he was brought into the squad on an Exhibit 10 contract. And he was a guy coming out of college that was very, very intriguing and had a lot of Warriors fans excited when he was signed as an undrafted free agent. Basically, the guy in college was a knockdown three-point shooter and shot them at a high volume. In his last season out there for Houston, on 7.3 attempts per game from behind the three-point line, he shot 42% from behind the arc. So coming into the NBA, was noted as a very, very strong marksman. However, there was one area in his game that was a little bit, for a 6'1" guard, concerning, because you want him to be able to do more out there on the court, facilitate, man in offense, do different stuff out there at the guard position. But he had that skill as a three-point shooter, and during the preseason, ended up impressing the Warriors fans. Of course, didn't have had a couple games, 0 points, not super impactful, but a couple games out there in preseason, putting up 11 points, 14 points, had led a crazy late game run out there against the Lakers or the Blazers, I believe. I forget which team it was, but I remember vividly him going off in the preseason and having a deep run. Crier impressed a lot of people. Now, it didn't lead to him actually making the roster straight out of, training camp and stuff, as news came out that the Warriors ended up waiving LJ Crier as well as Steph Curry at the beginning of the season, and they went into this year with the questions financially and stuff, and they ended up, of course, having their two-way spots ended up getting filled. But as of late, out there in the G League, this man has been dominant. And one of the reasons I brought up the fact that he's forcing the Warriors' hands in order to make this move, make this change, and it ended up actually happening. As this guy, you can take a look at his, stats out there in the G League. Of course, the Warriors, Santa Cruz Warriors, haven't been winning a ton of games out there in the win-loss column, but that hasn't been Crier's fault. This dude has been dominant out there at, out there for the Warriors G League team, and 29 points, 28 points, 25 points, just putting up remarkable stat lines and doing it while shooting just elite from behind the three-point line. You take a look at his total stats out there in the 7 games out there in the G League for the Warriors, 24 points per game, and shooting 41% behind the three-point line on 12 attempts per night. So you have that going, and then on top of it, the question marks about the assists and playmaking, averaging 5 rebounds per game. G League is a higher level of basketball in college, 5 rebounds per game and 6.1 assists. He's facilitating, he's manning an offense, and he's knocking down three-point shots at an absolutely insane rate. So yesterday I brought up, there's no way you can keep this guy out there on the G League team when you're playing this level of basketball. I know they're not getting wins. It's going to suck for the Santa Cruz G League team in terms of, getting wins out there now because their best player just got called up. But now it's been made official. Essentially, the Golden State Warriors plan to sign LJ Crier to a two-way contract per sources. He's averaged 24.3 points per game in the G League, making 41% of his three-point shots on 12.4 attempts per game. So he has been phenomenal, and then basically that has led the Warriors to essentially, according to Anthony Slater, waive Jackson Rowe for, to open up this two-way roster spot for Crier to come in. So sucks for Rope. He's a guy that, you look at him, he shows flashes of a guy that's exciting, that could have some moments, to blossom out there in the NBA. But, the Bulls' heads, it's just, you get why the Warriors ended up waiving him. So I wish him the best. I think he'll get picked up by another NBA team, so that's all good. But Crier is really that guy that, it can have an impact on this Warriors team right away. But how does this set up more moves? How does this set up more things? Because, again, the Warriors are in a position right now where they are a guard-heavy roster. And that was known last week. And then on top of it, you just signed officially Seth Curry to the roster, similar position. 2 guys that were waived at the start of the season, 2 guards that were waived at the start of the season, now getting both called up or signed out there for this team. Seth Curry is a guy that himself is an elite three-point shooter. Last season, shot 46% from behind the three-point line on 3 attempts per game. Brother Steph Curry, everyone's excited to see the biological Splash Bros actually go out there and play for this team. So, you have Seth Curry in the mix. You have news coming out that DeAnthony Melton is going to be returning from injury very, very soon. And Melton brings a different layer of impact from a lot of the other guards out there on this Warriors team because he is when healthy. We'll see how he's playing, recovering from this ACL injury, but he is an elite on-ball defender. We know Melton can come out and be a pest out there, the defensive end. Of course, can knock down the three-point shot. He is a guy that it sucks he's dealt with all these injuries. He is a guy that really could help the Golden State Warriors team, even with all these players back. But with all this now, so all these new signings, the Warriors have, everyone jokes about Steve Kerr. It's not even a joke about how he loves playing small ball lineups. This is the absolute small ball unit that this team has. You have Crier, who's 6 foot. You have Steph Curry, who is 6'1". Melton 6'2". GB2 6'2". Cam Spencer 6'3". You have Seth Curry now 6'3". You have Podziemski, or the heights. Seth Curry. Sorry, my words. Seth and Steph. It ruins me out here on videos. Seth Curry 6'1". Steph Curry 6'3". Podziemski 6'4". Buddy Hield 6'4". And Richard out there 6'4". And Moody 6'5". The Warriors are in a position right now where there are a lot of guys out there at that guard position and not a lot of big men out there on the roster, which now it's even more dramatic. I know it's memed, it's joked about, everyone makes fun of Steve Kerr. You cannot, if you are Mike Dunleavy, have all these guys that are capable of being rotation players run this small of lineup that's out there, especially when there are concerns with some of these guys that are currently in the rotation, how they've actually been impactful, because you have a guy like Buddy Hield, who, again, some games looks phenomenal, a lot of games just really hurts the soul to watch, or the missed shots, a lack of defense and stuff, and, 7.2 points per game for a three-point shooter. He's only shooting 31% from behind the three-point line. That is in the bottom third out there of the NBA. That can't be happening for a guy that's getting 17 minutes per night and doesn't really bring a whole lot else out there on the basketball court. So you have Hield out there. You have Podziemski, who hasn't been as, as aggravating as Hield, but I know there are a lot of people that really aren't very happy with Podziemski so far this season, especially with some of his off-the-court comments and stuff. But this season for Pods, 12.3 points per game, 4.6 rebounds, 3 assists, and, the efficiency is a little bit better, definitely from behind the three-point line, but still not the leap that 2 seasons ago we were all hoping Podziemski would really take. So there's that. You have Moses Moody, who again it's been slow, brings a bit more on the defensive end, but shooting 40% from the field, does knock down his 3-pointers, which is solid, but is more impactful on the defensive end. But slashing the rim, the Warriors are really struggling scoring inside the paint. You need more impact players out there on the squad. So all these dudes should be able to command something out there in the open market, and Mike Dunleavy has to take advantage, because in the short term now, I want to ask you guys and see your thoughts, because with Crier coming up, looking at his elite jump shooting, do you think, because the way Buddy Hield has been shooting this season, Crier should be playing out there over Buddy Hield? Type Y for yes, N for no, and we'll break it down, because again, taking a look at those stats, right? Crier shooting 12 threes a game and over 41% from the three-point line. Of course, the NBA is a different level than down the G League, but the sample size right now, Steve Kerr has to give it a go. He has to give Crier an actual shot. So I want to know what you guys think about all this in the comment section. But now, the way the roster's imbalanced, the way things are looking, Mike Dunleavy is forced to make one of these moves. The Warriors are a team that is competitive in the Western Conference. They should be so much better than they are, especially where Steph Curry is still having a phenomenal season. 8th in the Western Conference, you're a game and a half behind the Phoenix Suns. You're only, same thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves. You can easily jump out of that 8th seed and in the 6th seed if you string together some victories, string together some wins. And the Warriors have some very winnable games coming up. Maybe not the most immediate game because you're facing off against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, as you can see, are 20-1. So it's no shame in losing the OKC Thunder if we lose that game on Wednesday. But then you face the Philadelphia 76ers, the Cavs, who've been dealing with injuries, the Bulls, who've been struggling as of late, and then 2 very important games against the Phoenix Suns, who are right neck and neck with you out there in the Western Conference. The Warriors have to have their A game, have to have all their guys out there locked in, ready to go, or else things are going to be a difficult spot out there for this Golden State Warriors team. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. Do you think Mike Dunleavy will end up making one of these moves? And folks, if you have made it this far, comment down below that you are a real one. I'll give you a big shout out, give you a big heart, because anyone that's made it to the 11-minute mark out there in this vid, you are a real one. I want to show my appreciation. But folks, appreciate every single one of you. Again, on that road to 50,000 subscribers. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you guys hit that sub button. Currently at 14,137. I think we can get there for Christmas. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.